Hello, I'm Gabriella Ditton. I'm 27 and I'm a graphic designer and animator from Norwich. But more recently, I found myself doing a lot of climate activism.
We've looked into where you live and you only have an energy rating of D.
I don't even know what address you've got. I've moved house quite a lot.
Do you not understand how ridiculous it sounds that you are literally stopping people getting to hospital appointments and potentially causing deaths because you want the government to insulate everyone's home, but you haven't properly insulated your own home?
This is Insulate Britain. They're the people who've been blocking the M25 to campaign for the government to insulate all homes in the UK to help mitigate the impact of global warming. As Sir David Attenborough said, the climate crisis is the biggest security threat humans have faced. But is blocking roads and potentially endangering the public safety the best way to generate change? I guess the question is, how far is too far when protesting to fight the climate crisis?
So why did you personally join Insulate Britain?
I kind of reached a point in my life where I wanted to have children. And then I think I already knew there was a problem with the climate stuff. And then I did a bit of research and it was like, oh, it kind of like blew the lid off. So it was since that moment I kind of thought, if I really want to have kids, I really need to change what the future looks like first.
So what's the big fuss about insulation then? Greenhouse gas emissions from buildings account for 17% of the UK's total emissions. This is primarily from burning fossil fuels for heating, and homes account for over 3/4 of this. So not only will insulating homes cut emissions, but it could also bring some other benefits.
So insulation represents the best return on investment. So for as much money as you put in, that's what you get more out. It also, doing this insulation creates hundreds of thousands of well-paid, well-skilled jobs.
Insulation could also help the 13.4% of households in England that are fuel poor. This means that they have to spend above the national average to keep their homes warm, resulting in their leftover income taking them below the official poverty line. It's also estimated that between 5,000 to 10,000 deaths per year are caused by cold homes. And according to this report, excess winter deaths are almost 3 times higher in the coldest 25% of housing when compared to the warmest quarter. Insulate Britain want all homes to be insulated by 2030, but is this actually achievable?
I know it sounds like a good idea, but surely it's quite hard to insulate all homes within the UK.
It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it is an essential first step. Like, we're not going to tackle the climate emergency without insulating our homes. And it seems like a good place to start because it helps the people who are poorest, the people that are going to decide between heating and eating. They won't have to make that decision anymore.
As this report states, 26 million home retrofits will be needed to meet government's 2050 net zero targets. That means doing up 1.2 homes every minute from now till 2050. So imagine trying to achieve that by 2030, and where's all the money going to come from? But is the urgency of climate change and the potential benefits of insulation justification to block roads?
Insulate Britain has, made a name for itself because of your campaign of civil resistance. Tell me why you decided to take the approach of blocking roads and things like that.
So effectively, the road blocking is simply a way to get into the newspapers. The front pages, ideally, in the beginning of the campaign, we were on the front pages. Now, sitting on the M25 has become slightly normal. So you'll find us further through the newspaper and online a little bit more now. But people know who we are.
Why are you targeting the public rather than instead directly targeting the government?
Although it seems like we're targeting the general public, they're kind of the unfortunate. They've got caught up in the mess. Like, we're not trying to make their lives difficult, and we are always very apologetic. We have at the minute, or we did a couple of weeks ago, 25% public support, which is, 27% actually. Yeah, we don't want to upset people, we really don't, but unless you cause a little bit of disruption, you just get ignored.
Do you not also consider that maybe it's a bit damaging to your movement if you alienate yourselves from the public?
I think it definitely alienates some people, but even if it alienates people, generally everyone agrees that the demand is valid and it's something we need to do. So you might completely disagree with what you're doing, but you go, yeah, climate emergency is a problem. Yeah, insulation would help. Hate the tactics, that's terrible. So what I would hope those people do is do it in a way that they think is right. But we all go into it knowing that out of everyone in the situation, we're at the most risk.
The doctors have said that if we were to have got to them within 90 minutes, her recovery would have been minimised. Because she'd been left to endure a full-on stroke for 6 hours, it is severe. She's got complete paralysis now down her left side.
You said that your protesters are the most likely people to get injured. Obviously, we have the example of the lady who had a stroke and was stuck on the M25 and now she's paralysed. Why does the public have to suffer to that extreme in order for you to try and get your message across?
To think we're responsible for somebody suffering is awful. And yeah, that's not why any of us go into something like this. It's quite the opposite. And we all have our little moments of reflection to check, okay, are we doing the right thing here? We'll always let an ambulance through the roadblock, but the media will never show you that or tell you that. But I did get a little bit pissed off when, like, for example, 8,500 people are going to die this winter. Where is the outrage? Where is the outrage for the car accident that happened the day when Insulate Britain weren't there? They want to think of us as maniacs or selfish or troublemakers, criminals, all of this stuff. If they can paint that picture in their heads, then they don't have to worry about the fact that maybe we're right and their life is at risk.
There's also then the argument that maybe people feel angry because a pile up on the motorway, that wasn't a result of you guys. Someone could take that down to being an accident, whereas you guys being there does dramatically increase the risk. So do you think that there is a way in which you could protest which would get the same amount of attention but wouldn't have such a threat to the health and safety of the public?
If there was, I would love to hear about it. I can't think what that would be, but if somebody has an idea, I would love to hear it.
I read you the dictionary definition of fascism.
Yeah.
And it absolutely describes what your supporters are doing on the motorways.
We are demanding that the government make a meaningful statement to save the future of this country. And if they refuse to do it, then they can put us in prison. I've had enough of talking to people in this country about what we're doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, watching this programme, we now know that is the level of intellectual debate that they're able to bring to the table.
I take what you say about fascism, but I also would add that they are actually on a par with terrorism.
There's the saying that any press is good press. Do you think that's the same case here with Insulate Britain? Do you think that your message is being spread? Yes.
Yes. No such thing as bad publicity. Absolutely. It might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take 3 years. But if we refuse to give up, eventually, I believe the message will shine through.
So from the media coverage that I've seen, a lot of it is about focusing on the protests that you're doing, blocking the roads, rather than why you're protesting. Do you think that maybe the way that you're protesting is actually detracting from the cause?
I don't think so. I think even when they're saying how bad the protest is, they're still saying the name of what we want. But I am surprised that we're 6 weeks in and there still hasn't been enough attention on the why. But I have noticed that in other news stories not connected with Insulate Britain, people are talking about why insulation is important, the climate emergency. So I do feel that the message is getting out there kind of indirectly.
Because I mentioned to you, I didn't really clock on at all what it meant, which could just be a me problem. But there's a lot of videos that have been produced which maybe are just used as entertainment for people rather than actually saying why is this happening. And COP is also generating a lot of news coverage about climate change as well.
But I think you can't, again, for me anyway, if I'm looking at people sat in the road, my first thought is, oh look, that's funny. But then my second thought is why are they doing that? So I would be surprised if people haven't even considered why we're doing that.
I'm just outing myself as a terrible journalist for not asking why.
We've looked into where you live and you only have an energy rating of D.
The interview you did with GB News and then with the Good Morning Britain interview with Liam Norton.
Why haven't you insulated your own home for a start? Because I think where you're coming from is pure hypocrisy as well.
Sorry, is that the case? Is your home not insulated, Liam?
Whether my...
Just answer the question, Liam. It's not, is it? We know it's not.
The presenters were questioning you guys for why you guys didn't have your houses insulated. Surely you should be leading by example.
I would say we are just messengers. We're not like perfect people, and I've only ever rented my houses, and I think expecting me to insulate all the homes I've rented is unfair personally. But anyway, expecting the messenger to be perfect is, you're never going to find that perfect person. They don't exist, and if they did exist, they would live off grid in like a mud hut, and then they would be unrelatable. So yes, it would be amazing if we all had perfectly insulated houses, but if it wasn't that, it would be something else.
What does Insulate Britain need to be done in order for you guys to stop protesting?
So I think there's a deal to be reached with our negotiating team and their negotiating team, but they haven't even had us at the table yet. So either give us into our demand or meet us at the table for a chat. That's all that has to happen.
As you said, like, they haven't come to the table to like listen to your demands. Do you not think that maybe you need to be on good terms with the government in order for that to happen and for them to, you know, take you seriously?
We'll always be polite and respectful, of course. I've forgotten the question again.
I just said,
is it better to be on good terms with
them?
Yeah,
probably.
It probably is. Yeah, I guess so.
As you can see, this is a tricky subject. Insulating homes does appear to bring a lot of benefits, but is Insulate Britain's proposal actually achievable? And although climate change is undeniably a very serious issue that we need to tackle, does this justify Insulate Britain blocking roads in order to try and get their message across? While they have clearly made headlines and drawn attention, Insulate Britain's actions don't appear to have caused the government to have had a change of heart. So what do you think?